Amazing. A booby trap that actually catches boobies.
It seems I'm on a bit of a robot kick, with my last video talking about Astrobot, and now this review of two animated movies revolving around robots. Today we'll be talking about Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot, which are two really great animated movies with two very different tones. I really enjoyed both of these movies and found that they feature exactly what I want from modern animation, with stylish visuals and great storytelling. So allow me to explain as we dive into why you should watch Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot. It was inevitable that I would end up talking about Transformers on this channel. A big part of my childhood was made up by Transformers, whether it was the hit and miss Michael Bay movies, to the fantastic animated series Transformers Prime, or even the charming '86 movie. But recently, I found myself growing distant from the franchise. I enjoyed Bumblebee. It didn't really feel like a Transformers movie, and it was more of a generic buddy alien movie, but I still found it to be enjoyable. I can't say the same for Rise of the Beast, which I found to be a boring and dull experience. Rise of the Beast kind of killed all interest I had in Transformers for a while, so I wasn't the most excited when I originally heard about Transformers 1. Still, I waited to have an opinion on it until the trailers came out, which didn't really help this movie. In fact, it significantly worsened the film's reputation right from the start. The trailers for this movie were just the worst. I don't know who at Paramount thought these promotional materials were good enough to sell this movie, because watching them now, they feel like ads for a completely different film. So, after seeing these trailers, I had low expectations going into the movie. But luckily, those expectations were subverted in the best way possible, because this movie is actually pretty good. The story follows D16, played by Brian Tyree Henry, and Orion Pax, played by Chris Hemsworth, and shows the origin story of how they became Megatron and Optimus Prime, respectively. This film shows the beginning of the Cybertron Civil War and dives more into the Transformers as characters than any previous movie has. I know I gave this movie a you should watch and have been talking about how this movie is good, but it's not perfect. So let's talk about the negatives first. The jokes just aren't funny. I know comedy is subjective, but it definitely feels like the people who made this movie are better suited for more serious moments than comedy. I already talked about the trailers, and a big part of why they didn't work is due to the trailers featuring a lot of said unfunny jokes. Another issue I have with the movie is the two side characters. B-127, aka Bumblebee, played by Keegan-Michael Key, and Alita 1, played by Scarlett Johansson. Both characters aren't really that important to the story, and really just feel like they were thrown in here to be the typical comic relief and girl characters, and they overall just weren't as interesting as some of the other characters. Speaking of which, in this film you get to see a glimpse of other characters such as Starscream, Soundwave, and Shockwave, which I feel like could have been expanded upon, but maybe we'll see what they do with a potential sequel, which the same goes for Bumblebee and Alita. Now for the positives. I was initially not expecting much when the voice cast was released, and I thought it looked like the usual animated movie lineup of getting big name actors not for their talent, but instead for the name recognition. But the vocal performances were surprisingly impressive. Brian Tyree Henry was by far the most surprising, showing the kinder side of D16, but also being able to switch to the intensity of Megatron. And Chris Hemsworth didn't do a bad job as Orion Pax either. The animation is incredibly stylish looking, and offers a fresh new look that I haven't really seen anywhere else, and the action is extremely well choreographed and animated. I haven't talked about the villain yet, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, now is your spoiler warning. I mean, the villain is kinda obvious, but still, you know. Sentinel Prime, played by John Hamm, is not only a well-designed villain, but also is one of my favorite interpretations of the character. John Hamm strikes a great balance between being a sarcastic, charismatic jerk, as well as a full-blown maniacal villain. The soundtrack is also really good, and gives the film its own style, while also harking back to the old soundtracks. But I mean, anything that uses the Transformers Prime theme automatically gets bonus points for me. The next movie to talk about is The Wild Robot, which is the newest film from DreamWorks, who previously disappointed me with Kung Fu Panda 4, but luckily, this is much higher quality. The story follows a robot named Roz, who finds herself stranded on an uninhabited island. She eventually learns to understand the animals on the island and comes across a baby gosling, who she now has to raise alongside the help of a fox played by Pedro Pascal, in order to get the gosling to be able to survive on its own. The story is a heartwarming tale of motherhood, and the performances help sell the emotion in every scene. The music also helps incredibly with the feel of the movie, with big orchestral scores that help swell emotions in the audience alongside the amazing visuals. The movie has that 2D, 3D mix that's becoming more popular now with other movies like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots 2, but unlike those movies, this film has those 2D features toned down a small amount to set a more grounded tone, which works out really well. The animation is also incredibly fluid and expressive, which is to be expected of DreamWorks at this point. If there's one criticism I have with the movie, it's that it suffers from a case a lot of other movies have, and that's too many endings. There are multiple times during this film where it feels like we should be wrapping up soon, but it just keeps going, which leads to poor pacing at times, but it isn't a massive issue. The villain of this movie also feels hastily thrown together, but she serves her purpose fine enough. I don't usually get emotional when I watch a film, but this is one of the few that really left an impact, with absolutely amazing storytelling and characters. It seems like DreamWorks is in the middle of a course correction after their previous failures like Kung Fu Panda 4 and Megamind 2, and are looking to be more focused on their future endeavors, like the recent announcement of Dogman, and I honestly can't wait to see what they do next. Who knows? Maybe we could see them uncancel that Plants vs. Zombies movie? Please? In summary, both Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot are absolutely astonishing animated movies that I can't recommend enough. If you're on the fence about watching either of these, then I'd say you should give them a shot, even if you're not usually someone who watches animated features. I have a feeling you won't be disappointed. Basically, what I'm saying is, you should watch Transformers 1 and The Wild Robot. That's all I got for now. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and hit that bell icon to be notified for whenever I make a new video. The next review should be Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. So if you're interested in that, or interested in supporting the channel more, then turn on notifications and check out my other videos. Okay, that's it. Bye.